Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're looking at the McFarlane Halo 4 Series 2 Deluxe Didact figure. Oh my goodness, this guy is awesome. Now I'm a little bit biased, so I'm a little bit smitten now that I have this figure. I might be overly nice. I don't know if it's as good as I'm going to say it is, but I think it is pretty darn good. I do like this guy a whole bunch. Let's get him standing, roughly. So he's pretty much standing straight up and down right there. I don't have his feet set up for standing straight up and down, so I have to hold him up. But let's measure him anyway. He's about 9.5 inches tall to the top of his head/armor. And that lets him tower over Chief, just like he did in the game. And there they are. So Chief, this is a standard McFarlane figure, 5.5 inches. Tiny. And to do the pose like they did when they first met, and Didact's like, "What you doing in my house?" And Chief's like, "I want to stop you." And he goes, "No, you're not going to do that." There, that's it right there. That's the pose. If I had invisible stuff, I could have him hold him up. But, so, there you go. The scale's good. It'll work. I like it. Alright, so that covers the scaling and the size. Let's talk paint. Paint is, in some places, awesome. In other places, not quite as awesome. Generally, throughout the figure, we have the standard McFarlane paint application where it looks pretty good. There's weathering, there's washes and dry brushing. Of course, there's some slop here and there. If you look at his torso, you can see there's some brown on the silver. Some things aren't quite lined up perfectly. If you look at his face, his lips aren't exactly perfect. His eyes aren't exactly perfect. But it's pretty darn good, and I am more than pleased with it. It looks great. I love it. And then we also have the not quite typical. I mean, we have these things like, for example, the little white lines on that guy's head, those little decal applications or whatever they are. We have that in the way of these orange and yellow detail marks, the lighting, the hard light parts of his armor, and generally they look pretty good. There are a few of them on some of the figures aren't quite in the right spots, so that's a little disheartening, but at first glance he looks great, so I'm not going to complain too much. And he's got tons of these things on his back. I was just watching some footage of the game today again just to refresh my memory, and I'm glad they got it pretty much accurate. You know, they have them all pretty much where they're supposed to be, and it looks pretty damn good. It looks awesome. Really like this figure. I have to say, this thigh area right here, it looks like it needs a silver dry brush or something. It just looks a little bland. I don't know if it's supposed to be that muted, that solid colored black. Everything else has the brown or silver. That looks a little off to me, but I'll have to go back and check. It still looks pretty good as a whole, though. These floaty armor pieces are made on the clear plastic, so they just kind of dangle there. And it looks good. Definitely good enough. And these are all kind of separate, so that's cool. He's got the little piece on his back even. Little details like that make me appreciate a figure so much more. And so he's every bit what I wanted him to be, except for one issue. And I'm going to jump to this in the articulation section because I haven't done anything else yet. And this is the one that's driving me bonkers, and there's nothing I can do about it. It's the damn hips again. We can't get good hips on the Spartans, we got bad hips on the Elite, we got bad hips on the Jackal. This guy's basically a standard humanoid action figure, big size. We could have got good hips on him, but no. We got stupid, crappy hips again. All we can do is really just swivel him a little bit. There's almost no range of motion side to side, no forward back. All we have is this quasi swivel, which, I mean, you can get a little bit of posability out of it, but then you have to rotate his leg all the way around, so it looks stupid. So he's generally going to be standing straight up for the most part. So that really bugs me. I'm really upset about that little issue. But luckily for this guy and for Tord, I'm still going to recommend the figure because it's just almost perfect in every other regard. Alright, let's talk articulation. The head is on a ball peg, which gives him crazy articulation. Anything you want to do, you can pretty much do it. Looks up, looks down, swivels, no problemo. And yes, where'd it go? Here it is. It does have the removable head and the interchangeable head for the armored head, the helmeted head, which looks superb. It looks great. It sounded like I said superb, like it was past tense. It's not a verb, it's an adjective. Looks great. Looks really, really cool. That's why I have two of them, so I can display them both ways. And because I love the Didact. And maybe because I'm going to customize one into being the ISO Didact. I don't know, because we don't know what he looks like in game, but we'll see. Okay, back to the articulation. Really good articulation. Really good sculpt. I didn't point that out, really. The sculpt is fantastic. It's just chock full of details. Every part is sculpted. There's nothing that's just flat detail, really. Everything looks great, especially, like I said, his face looks it's pretty impressive. I really like it. The paintwork could be a little more clean, but it looks pretty good. I really, really do like it. Okay, back to the articulation. The shoulder, just like the Spartans and almost every other figure, they have the ball hinge shoulders that swivel at the torso. He's got the ball hinge elbow. It swivels at the top and at the bottom. Range of motion's pretty good. Not going to complain about that. He's got the same articulation in the wrist. It swivels at both ends. Each one of his main fingers is posable. The thumbs aren't. I really wish at least one of the thumbs, the main thumb, the top thumb, the big one, the one that we have, this one, I wish he had a posable thumb there. But having these fingers posable is pretty good, and they did a pretty good job of doing it. It looks clunky. It's like, why did they do it the way they did it with the gaps where they put them? But it works pretty well. It's not as clean as it could have been, but it's pretty effective, and I do like it, and I appreciate that they did articulate at least some of his fingers, so that's really cool. I'm really glad they did that. Just to comment on the sculpt a little bit more, these pieces are really, it's a nice touch. Instead of having them like solid or something, they did make it more accurate, so I'm happy with that. For the torso, kind of a letdown. I wish we had a little more range of motion. We don't have too much at all, forward and back. Side to side, also very limited. Then of course just the swivel, which works no problem at all, but it could definitely be a little bit better. And the hips, I already told you, suck. The knees, standard, just like the Spartans. We have the ball hinge, so it ratchets, and then it swivels in the knee or in the thigh. I do wish they gave him a little bit more range of motion, just to bring the leg back farther. But the rest of the articulation, namely the hips, don't lend themselves to using the knees that much, so it's not that big of a problem just because of the crappy hips. The ankles, pretty much like the Spartans in that it's a ball hinge, except instead of having the double hinge like they have it, or the double swivel like the wrists and the elbows, it just swivels in the shin, and then it's just hinged from the foot down. It's all one piece here. It's really stiff, so be careful with that. These are softer pieces of plastic, so that's okay if they bend a little bit, but still be careful, cautious, and also watch out for these pieces. And then lastly, we have just like the Spartans, the ball hinge toe, which has a decent range of motion, and that's where you're going to use the ankle rocker, because the regular ankle hinge doesn't swivel sideways like the Spartans. This one is how you're going to get him to stand with his feet apart without having them like that. You can just turn them like that. Alright, so pretty good set of articulation. The legs could be better, but it's not like the Didact ran around a whole lot and did kung fu kicks and stuff, so I think he'll be just fine the way he is, and he looks glorious. Such a good figure. I really couldn't be happier other than having the hips better. That's the only thing I would ask for. There they are, the Didact brothers, together at last in my collection. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for more figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.